If you need a puck, you might be in luck. A range of options on the table, it's easy to get your IoT stable. From 4G to 5G, Wi-Fi and GPS, the perfect solution. Don't settle for less. Today I want to talk about the puck antennas from Poynting Antennas. But before I do that, do remember to stay connected to RFShop by subscribing to our channel and clicking that bell so you will be notified of any updates and any uploads that we make for other antennas and products from all our products available. So the puck antenna, it's basically a small form factor antenna. It does a lot of things. So as I said in that initial introduction, you can do 4G, you can do Wi-Fi, you can do GPS, and a whole range of combinations of that specific feature. The first question, I guess, is what's the application, or where does this kind of antenna, where does it get used? Probably the most common one is just to say industrial applications. It's a small form factor antenna, industrial applications where this is a rugged antenna. It's completely solid, it's completely sealed, it's completely waterproof, and can really take a lot of mechanical abuse, so to speak. So therefore, like in the rail industry, it gets used a lot. I have a few customers come to us with applications in aircraft and helicopters and so forth, which would obviously be extreme vibration. Works great. It's an outdoor antenna, but it's perfectly fine as an indoor antenna and well. And why I say that is where we actually get to use this antenna quite a lot is in our setups where we use either modems, the Teltonica routers or other routers, as well as with a cell-fi. If you get the single version of this antenna, now there's a puck antenna right next to me. The single antenna, it's a nice, elegant little dome. If you put that upside down, specifically the white ones, if you put it upside down against the ceiling, it's elegant. It can be like visible to the naked eye, but because it's such an elegant small form factor, but it can do either Wi-Fi or 4G or a combination of those, it really is an awesome option to use for indoor applications as well. Then of course, because it's so waterproof, IP68, it's great for marine applications as well, either on a boat or somewhere where you just have a site that is really going to be exposed to the extreme elements. And I'm now specifically thinking about the what a crazy test I did. I think it's beginning of this year where I went for a dive, but what I did was also put a puck antenna on my floating system so that I could have a connection to the outside world. And that antenna, if you remember, was really floating and bobbing up and down and underwater, up above water again, and it just kept working. So it just shows you it's not just waterproof or water resistant. This thing is really waterproof, that it can go completely submerged. You can't use it when it's submerged, so it is, of course, it gets used when it's outside, but if the environment is such that every now and again this thing gets submerged, it will come out and it will work. It will still work. As I mentioned, so 4G and 5G, so it's basically a cellular cellular antenna. That does not mean that it does not do 3G and 2G, and this is just something that I will always say, because it's always a question that we get is, if we say it's a 4G antenna, yes, it's backward compatible as well, because all those frequencies that were used back in the 3G or 2G networks are still covered in the 4G network. So this type of antenna, like the puck antenna, gets used everywhere. Then Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi means 2.4 and 5.8 gig, and there are different models that does single SISO or Mimo, so one Wi-Fi or two Wi-Fi elements inside the antenna itself. GPS, there's quite a few models that have GPS. I'll go through the list a little bit later. Just one thing again, Mimo versus SISO. So we talk about those things often. Mimo means there are two, well, mostly two, because it's getting more as well. There is a model that has more than two, but there's two elements in the antenna itself. SISO means there's only one element. So if you like a cell-fi have a single output, so you use a SISO because it's just one going to one. That's easy. If it's two, like in a Teltonica router where you have two outputs or inputs for either Wi-Fi or 4G, for instance, you can take one puck that has a Mimo feature, and it would have, like in this case, actually this is a puck 2 that I have here, it has two cables, so the two cables can connect into the two ports of a specific device or Teltonica router or something. Now, sorry about that. Now, as I said, it's IP68, so completely waterproof. It's rugged. It's completely, well, it's enclosed. IP68, we think water, but it's really dust as well. So it's a sealed unit. So I keep repeating myself because it's such an awesome feature. It's quite useful. 2 meters of cable. Now that is very handy to know. So here's basically a good example. There's 2 meters of cable that comes out of the unit. So if it's this one, it has two antennas, it has 2 cables. The single one has 1, but I'm going to look at the PUCK 5 a little bit later, and you'll see there's 5 cables coming out, and then each of those variants have that amount of cables and connectors coming out of the unit itself. Another nice feature is that it's black or white. Typically you see photos that does have black on them, so you're used to having these antennas in black. I put the white one on here because I think white is, as I mentioned with the indoor application, really versatile. Gets, like in the marine application, outdoor you want white, so this is what can be done. And also indoors, white is often a better color to use. The type of mounts that you get, so the first one, when it comes out of the box, it has a little mount that looks like this. So it's a spigot mount, so that's just typically how it comes out of the box, with the actual screw and a nut. So you can make a hole, poke a hole through a structure, and then the cable runs through that, and with the nut you can fasten that. I'll show a little bit later how that can be done. There's a longer version in the box, so in the box everything is available, so it's not like you have to look for specific alternatives or upgrades. There's a longer version of the same thread, so if you have a thick structure, maybe a caravan roof or something, that is an option that you can definitely use. Also included is double-sided tape, so if it is a setup where you want to put this thing straight on a surface, that can be done, as well as a magnetic base. So what you would do is different applications where you can mount it in certain different ways, and then you have a magnetic base where the cable would run through, and then along the side you would go straight. Just to show this is magnetic, I have another one here just to make the point. There's a black one, goes together, so this can go against any metal surface, because there are 1, 2, 3, 8 little magnets in there, and I mean it's strong enough. It's pretty useful. So if you have a metal surface, it'll stick on there. Again, versatility, very versatile. Let's think what else there is. Personally, just one thing to kind of think about, and this is more a little bit thinking out of the box. So there are antennas that is 1 antenna or 2 antennas, but if you have a caravan that you want Mimo, multiple input, you want to have diversity between your 2 antennas. So when you have 2 antennas or elements inside a small antenna like this, and it's not criticism, this is just the reality of how this thing, how this type of application works. 2 antennas there would have some diversity, but not as much as you potentially might want. So one idea that I often propose is to have 2 single antennas on different areas, and I'm specifically thinking about the caravan application or marine application or something like that, where you can say, you know what, my modem has 2 ports, I want 2 antennas, but maybe I can get better performance having 2 simpler antennas on different locations, so that either both of them could get different signals, or sometimes the setup might be slightly different, you knows what. But do not think you only have to use the PUCK 2, for instance, which has 2 antenna elements for a modem. If you want 2 PUCK 1s, you can play a little bit with that as well. So it's always worth contacting your supplier, contacting RFShop, to just make sure that there might not be a few ideas that you can look at. The radiation pattern. Now that's me as an antenna guy here that just wants to talk about this, because I have seen applications where people would put this antenna, because it looks like this. I mean, it's just a little dome, and it's quite nice. Tempted to put that. Oh, there goes my mount. Back again. There we go. That this was actually on a train, a photo that I've seen. So it put against the train as the train is moving forward. Yeah, that's a possibility, but the antenna is fundamentally an omnidirectional antenna. So if you look at it like this is basically how it would be mounted. So you have a box, electric box or a system or so, put this on the roof, and then it's working best all around. And then it does work in certain bands. If you look at the detail of the actual the radiation pattern plots that they have available, in some of the frequencies it does work quite well actually to the top. But fundamentally, the safest bet is just always assume this is an omni antenna. You want to put it flat on the surface so it works to the side. So everywhere around, that's where it fundamentally will do its job the best. That's all that I wanted to say in general without going into specifics. So I think now I just want to run through this little table that I created. There's a lot of references. The data sheets are all available. There is a product overall view on the Poynting website, which is also great. But just to give you a quick summary of what I have, and now what I just want to say as I talk about this table, do contact us or contact your local supplier wherever you are about the options and specifics here. So I'm just digesting all the information. There is information on different documents. I'm just trying to match everything to each other. But let's have a look at the summary. And the ones that I listed here, if I just jump from the left to the right table that I have, the comment that says stock, I am thinking about what we typically try to stock, but I also was looking at the information from Poynting, which specifically said those items are typically available in stock. The other ones are often more special and they may have some lead times. So do keep in mind, if you want to get quickly into something, the ones that are listed as stock items are probably the safer bet if you are a little bit in a hurry. The other ones are more for bigger projects where you may think, well, this is what I want to use eventually, so let's plan for this properly. So you can see on the left, that's how many PUCK antennas there are. It's a huge number. So you go from PUCK 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Literally, that's how we go. Then 7 and 8, and 11, 12, 14, and there is a GPS 1. I'm including the GPS 1 because it has the same form factor, and it basically looks the same, and it kind of can be covered in the same breath. Color, according to the price list and according to the data sheets that I have with the references and so forth, that's the color scheme that I could see. But again, let's just, when you have the detail, talk to your local supplier, talk to RFShop just to confirm the details there. White is obviously rare because black is just the one that in this form factor seems to be the common one, but white, that's why I have it here. I absolutely love it. I think it looks very elegant and I think it's very useful for a lot of applications. It opens up a lot of new opportunities for this antenna as well. But you can see there's the list from PUCK 1 to PUCK GPS 1 up to down. Different ones do typically come in white. But what's interesting is then the list of specifications or options. So PUCK 1, it's a simple one. That's the one that just has the LT antenna. But it's a very useful one. In fact, if as I mentioned earlier, the self-fi or indoor applications, or if you want to build a little bit of a Mimo system using 2 antennas, PUCK 1 times 2 is absolutely awesome idea. PUCK 2 is the same, but it's a Mimo antenna. So in one dome, in one antenna, you have 2 4G elements. 5G ready. Always remember 5G ready. And PUCK 3 is then a mix of all the available technologies. Now PUCK 3 is the one that's made to order. Actually, it's quite, you stumble across it and think, well, this one is not one to forget about. It has one 4G or 5G ready. It has one Wi-Fi and it has GPS. PUCK 4 is one that actually is quite useful, makes a lot of sense in a lot of specific applications. It has 2x2 Mimo for 4G, so it connects to your modem or router, and it has GPS as well. In the railroad industry, that gets used a fair bit. The PUCK 5 is a very, very popular one, and I have a PUCK 5 here. I'll open it up later. PUCK 5 is, it basically has everything. So it's 2x2 4G, 2x2 Wi-Fi, and GPS. Again, 4G, but 5G ready. When I say 4G, I do imply 5G ready as well. So just keep that in mind. PUCK 7 and PUCK 8 is, PUCK 7 is actually PUCK 5 minus the GPS. So it's 2x2 Wi-Fi and 2x2 4G/5G ready. PUCK 8 is slightly simpler. So PUCK 8 is a Mimo 2x2 4G and a single Wi-Fi antenna. PUCK 11 or PUCK 11, I think that's how I should read it actually, is just one Wi-Fi antenna, very useful for Wi-Fi application. PUCK 12 is one that becomes very relevant now because PUCK 12, a lot of Wi-Fi, most Wi-Fi these days do have 2 antennas, so that one gives you the 2x2 Wi-Fi capability. Again, if I would say just as a creative application, sometimes it might be interesting to look at PUCK 1 or PUCK 11 times 2 if that's a sensible setup. PUCK 14, not well published or readily available, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody who's watching this video, but that one is where I said, remember 2x2 Mimo is just very common, but that one has 4x4 Mimo. 4 antenna elements in there, all for Wi-Fi. So that is definitely a very awesome little antenna. And GPS 1, you do get GPS antennas from every, you know, you get all these low cost type of antennas, but imagine you need to have a really reliable setup where GPS needs to be completely IP68 rated, needs to be rugged and reliable in harsh conditions. GPS One is a very good idea because the GPS antenna is just really fully enclosed by an absolutely amazing mechanical setup. So the next thing I want to do is just show you what's in the box. It's not a typical unboxing because I've already given you all the information and everything, but it comes in a single box, and in there, as you would expect, you have your information document. So it gives you all the instructions what to do, give you a bit of the detail, and it also gives you a checklist on all the bits and pieces that's in there, just to make sure that you haven't missed anything or that there's something missing in the box. The antenna itself, when you get it, comes coiled up, and it's in this box. Yeah, getting it out. That's out. So just put that on the side. That's the antenna, coiled up with nice protective plate around the cables, and then a bag of goodies. And the bag of goodies is really useful because, of course, that default setup is beautiful, but that may not be what you want to do. So I'll just want to get my screwdriver, and then I'll show you what you can do to get something done with this antenna. What I want to do is actually start with one topic that is close to my heart. If you look at this, you have the 5 cables, because this is PUCK 5. So PUCK 5, as I mentioned, has 2x2 4G, 5G ready. It has 2x2 Mimo, and it has a GPS antenna. They have color coding on there, so that's beautiful. So you have color codes, and there's text on there that says LTE for the purple. There's blue that says GPS, I would assume, yes, and then there's 2 greens that are Wi-Fi. All the connectors on there are SMA male, but you may know by now that SMA is only more relevant for 4G, 5G systems and modems, but for Wi-Fi they always use reverse polarity SMA. But in the box, fortunately, they do include 2 little adapters, so you have a reverse polarity male connector and the standard connector SMA female. So that's sorted. So you can basically connect this or attach that to these 2 connectors, and then you're all good. Just want to get my screwdriver, then I could quickly unscrew this thing. There we go. I'll show you the rest. What I want to mention, very important, cable modification is something that can be considered, but that's specifically also with RFShop. So if you have a project where you want a PUCK antenna on a box, but the box might just be, I don't know, half by half a meter or so, and you sit with 5-meter cables. Well, this is too much. What do I do with the cable? Just contact RFShop, or if it's a really big project, contact Poynting, or contact your local distributor for Poynting to talk about modification. But with RFShop, what we'll do is we'll take the cables, we can modify it, because we do cables as part of our core business, and make it shorter, of course 2 meters and shorter. So that's what we can do. One thing to keep in mind, if you do your own modification, and we haven't done this incorrectly yet, but certainly it's something to be mindful of, don't just start by cutting off these cables. Say, okay, well, this is too long, cut the cables off, because once you cut it off, you sit with 5 black cables and you have no idea what they are. So you need to do it bit by bit. So if you were to cut the cable shorter, say you say my Wi-Fi needs to be terminated with RPSMA or TNC or some other connector, first take them, cut them shorter, get the correct connector on before you go to the 4G antenna, and before you then go to the LTE antenna, so there's no confusion about what's actually being done next. Now let me just open this up and I'll show you what can be done. So there's always a cable tie on there, nice and neat. There's the cable. That is a 2-meter cable. You can see if you want to install this in a small box, that does get quite a quite cumbersome. So you would unscrew the actual nut at the top, remove this because that's always part of it, the double-sided tape, and remove the screws. There we go. These 2 are taken off, and you can either put a longer one on and put it back on again, or you have to feed stuff through. So this is just, I mean, it's a bit of work, but it's not actually that hard. So you just have to feed everything through and put something else on. So if you take that out, here at the end, because it's 5 SMAs, you have to just take your time and slowly but surely pass them all through. I think I may have mentioned this before, but these little nuts they have behind the SMA connectors that you can see there really makes for fastening very easy. So it's a very good idea and very good to keep that on there if you can use it for something else, if you swap the connectors over. So that's off. Take this one off. Again, just take your time because it's one by one. It's too many connectors in there. That's just the 5. On the 1 and the 2, it's quite easy. There you go. That's all off. So this is free. What I did on this one, for instance, when I put the actual pole mount on, the pole mount itself, you just have to feed it back again. You will, at some stage, do it wrong. It happened a lot. So you just start on this one, and once you get to the end, you see that this is the wrong way around. So just be mindful of that. Or if you just want to put the magnet on, there's of course no feeding required. You would just bend this over. I'm not going to do it here because I still want to use this antenna elsewhere. Bend this over, seal it, and then you have an antenna that you can put with a magnet against something else. I think it's a little bit, no, it's very possible with the PUCK 5 cables. I wouldn't do it now. As I say, this one is still a brand new product and I want to use it later on for other stuff. But on the PUCK 2 and the PUCK 1, because it's a single cable or 2 cables, quite easy to just bend it tightly against this. One bend should be okay for that. That's the PUCK antenna. It's an awesome little antenna, definitely worth looking at for harsh environment projects, and if you have big projects coming up at some stage for any kind of IoT approach, or even on just a typical 4G application where you think size is a concern on my caravan or my boat or on a vehicle. If a size is a concern, or you just want something nice, elegant, compact, this is an antenna to look at. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon on the next video we're going to do. Cheers, bye-bye. Subscribe to our channel. Also, man. Take 3. Now, a lot of the models, not all of them, come in black or white. White one upside down. And there goes Stella, my cat. So I'm home. I'm taking videos home. Yeah, carry on. Upside down videos are. Let's go to back. Just take one step back. Stella.